What's going on, creators? I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk a little bit about delayed gratification and how you can use the mirror principle to really take that to the next level in the here and now, so you're not being triggered when you're faced with like undesirable shit that's manifesting around you, because everything that's in your space right here right now is a reflection of your past. And so realizing that all the seeds that you planted in the subconscious mind yesterday has now manifesting and sprouting today. Sometimes, you know, it's been a progression of multiple things, you know, that have caused this event to spiral off, but regardless, it's all past. And if we continue to listen to our mind that is fixated on the past, the cursed mindset that's always in the past and in the future, never in the present moment, we're going to unconsciously perpetuate this feedback loop of undesirable shit. And so becoming aware of it's the first step in letting go of the resistance and the attachments to what's happening now. You know, sometimes that could be like maybe pain in your body is a good example, because you can start to become fixated on it and start being very reactive. I know I can get like that at times, where it's like feeling pain or something, then there's like a thought or a belief of like, oh, I'm deteriorating, oh, this is getting worse, what if this spirals into more and more intense pain or whatever. Well, in doing that, feeding that your attention, it has a way of unconsciously then perpetuating it as you fill your mind with the state that you're in, like bad health or there's something wrong with your body. So as long as you have this assumption that something's wrong with you and you're sitting in the present moment begging and pleading, oh, you know, heal me from this disease or this symptom, or please give me relief, you're always saying in the here and now, you're at what you like, the undesirable. I'm in undesirable. That's what I'm in. I want this to go away. But when you realize when you're living in the end, as far as like the law of assumption goes, it's like you are already healed, you're already blessed, you are already that which you desire to be. Your failure to like realize it is the only reason that you don't experience it. And so much of what we do experience comes from these seeds of fear and all these little scraps of separation and doubt, and not realizing that it's something that's going on in our consciousness is being externalized. And by not realizing that there's a delay from the past, it's easy to fall into these tricks of like, oh, I want instant healing and instant manifestation because it's only ever now. Yeah, but it's the resistance though to that that understanding that pushes it away from you more and more so. But with delayed gratification, you're able to realize that tomorrow, all I have to do today is still plant these seeds of faith, which is, you know, God is my healer, God is my supply, my source for this healing. My body is a perfect reflection of mind. My body is going to mirror the laws of God in consciousness. So as I believe, that'll be done to me. I'm not going to be stuck in resistance and doubt, which is another way of looking at these fearful situations when they happen, where you're fixating on the undesirable, fixating on the past that's now confronting you, and like judging it, condemning it, wanting to fight it, wanting to, you know, just, you know, not accepting it. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it by any means, especially when it's like obviously contrary to who you are in Christ. But the thing of it is the more that you're able to at least objectively look at it, well, then you can realize that, oh, tomorrow, as I plant these new seeds in God's timing through a series of events, this will heal. This will be, you know, I'll drift out of this state and I'll enter into the state of being blessed right now by putting it on right now. You know, because if I was like blessed and I didn't have these problems, I wouldn't even be thinking like this. I wouldn't be worried about like healing or fixating on like scarcity of like, oh, what, you know, this might be hard for my body to fix, while like a tiny scratch is easy. The only difference is the scale. And then there's like a big mental narrative about, well, it could get infected. Well, there's all these other reasons and variables that something could go wrong, so I can sit here and worry about it in the here and now, which then can have like an unintended consequence of then reflecting into the mirror of like reality. And the less that you believe in linear time, the faster and faster you notice these happening now and now and now. But the thing about the delayed gratification, which can be a hope building thing at simultaneously, it's like even if you are feeling pain or some drama, realize that that's not who you are. And as you believe, as you plant these seeds of faith in the here and now, not spinning out in fear, not spinning out and like putting a bunch of attention onto it and like fighting it like it's a real problem, it's only a reflection of consciousness. And so as you put on that kind of knowing that this will reflect tomorrow, or it could reflect in 5 minutes from now. As soon as I let it go and drop it and stop caring about it so much, it's interesting how many times then you'll be like pushed to like, oh, check on, oh, someone knocked at the door, you have to get up, oh, someone called me. Next thing you know, you get distracted by shit going on around you, that you lose your attention on the problem, and you're already in a new state just like that. But then, if you're not disciplined in your thinking, it's easy to then have the thought of like, oh, I'm in pain, I'm not healed, there's something wrong with me. And then you start spending, the present moment freaking out and being hysterical, planting more and more of those seeds as you're kind of doubling down on it accidentally. I mean, it's accidentally that you're doubling down on it, but the more that you believe this is real, this is a real problem, this is a real obstacle and a challenge, and this goes for like everything. I mean, as you do one thing, you kind of do all of these things. So it's like you could have this with scarcity with money too, where it's like, oh, well, some external event happened. Once you realize that everything is like energy exchange, it's like people are either like consumers or like producers. Most people are consumers, and they don't realize that that's kind of what they're doing, but they're constantly absorbing energy, constantly absorbing content. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I do it, you do it, and we're doing it right now. This tandem relationship here. But the thing of it is, it's like you can be using it as a investment and like knowledge that you can start applying to start making a positive change in your life, which is very, I feel like is a high value thing to share with others, and something I enjoy others sharing too, because then you're able to level up in your consciousness, which then has an immediate effect on what is externalized in your life. And with delayed gratification, especially when you're really fine-tuned on the present moment, well, it's easy to get discouraged and triggered when everything that's been negative, all these fearful and assumptions and beliefs that aren't even true to you anymore, are now being confronted. So it's like, oh, I'm going from scarcity to abundance. I'm putting on abundance, but I'm stuck at this level because all these beliefs that are keeping me at this level are confronting me now. Well, if you're in a space of like, oh, only time is real is now, I'm looking at a mirror, well, then you kind of want to instantly change it. But with realizing more and more so that it's a delayed reflection, there's a little bit more like acceptance of like, okay, well, this is what I did think. I'm not going to continue to perpetuate it. I'm going to choose new, and then I'm going to start to consciously focus my attention on love or the desirable instead. And I'm going to plant those seeds of faith, and in God's timing, whenever that is, the future is in God's hands, trusting that you don't need to figure it out. It's better that you don't figure it out, because you're going to fuck it up. Because look what's going on already in the present. That is a direct result of the best your thinking got you. I'm sure there's things that are like, this is okay, but there's some things, we can lie to ourselves, but we know, we know these things that come to us like, yeah, that's kind of a shit show, but like, we have all eternity to kind of like grow and get these things figured out. So it's like these subtle moves. One of which I feel like is a very big level up in consciousness is realizing the delayed gratification of experiencing maybe the opposite in the present moment, knowing that this is temporary, and by facing it in faith and planting those seeds in the subconscious, that the new reflection will be more and more reflective of love and our relationship with God and this oneness. Because part of what's going on in the present moment when you're confronted with these limiting beliefs, a lot of it's like you're putting something on a pedestal, or you're separating yourself from it, which, it all again has to do with kind of your relationship with God too. Because if you believe that God is the source for everything in creation, which that is true, and God is the source of the supply for it, the only difference between like money is a good, like $100 a day to $1,000 a day or 10,000 is only in the supply, but it's still the same source, but you put the limit on it with your own beliefs. And so it's like the more that you are able to face those with a delay without being triggered and reactive and see, oh, here's my limiting belief that scarcity is real. You get confronted with an illusion. Well, like the world would do, would be double down on hysteria and fear, and reinforce these beliefs of separation and scarcity. Well, when you put on who you are in Christ in the mirror, when you're confronted with that, you go, oh, this is an illusion that is keeping me at this level. I know if I plant abundance seeds and really just reinforce the fact that God's my supply for this, well, how would I feel like knowing I'm blessed, I'm connected with God, and God is all the physical abundance in creation. God controls that, and that's within me and you, and it's about tapping into that realization that you are not separate from it because God's not separate from it, and you are connected in consciousness. And so the more that you're able to stand in faith of that Jesus is within you according to the Bible, the Holy Spirit is within you as your teacher. You don't need these external producers in a lot of different ways, but because the producer is actually within you. But we can all fall into either one of those states, of consuming or producing. A lot of times the consuming is reflective of our cursed mindset, which is enslaving, which is scarce, which believes in separation and fear. And so just by embodying producer, I'm awake, I'm a creator, I'm this, I'm creating value, I'm doing that, more than I'm consuming, then you start to build more and more value, or build more and more surplus. And it's all one thing. So it's like if you get that concept of like deficit, like running a deficit versus a surplus, and it's like you're either doing one or the other, and it's either you're drifting up or drifting down into scarcity or to abundance. Maybe is a good example, where, but there's a delay, in what's happening in the present moment as it unfolds. But it's like you could pick two, the fear and double down on that and experience more of that, or really grasp delayed gratification, staying in faith in the here and now, knowing that as you be it now, be blessed now, and come at this problem from the perspective of I already have the solution to this because that's within me, because I'm connected with God and God's going to solve this problem. God does the work, and you don't have to worry about how the future unfolds. You just need to hold your peace now and start planting these seeds of faith and watching them bloom more and more so now as you're looking at creation from more of a creating lens than a consumption lens. That's really helpful too in business, where it's just like, even with like music, because I do music licensing, music publishing, it's easy to get into like the trick of me. How can I get more sales? How can I make more money? How can I do this? How can I do that? But, once you realize, you're producing it for someone else, it's like then your focus becomes not on you, but becomes on the publisher. So it's like, well, if I do good, they do good. So I want to bless them with like an amazing amount of sales, that we're working together and shit's really popping off as a benefit for both of us. So then it takes the focus off of you and more towards others, which then actually creates more value, which then it just automatically just happens. And so it's like, it's I don't know, important, but not. What is important is ultimately your faith, is what's really important. But, kind of keeping track of like, am I consuming more than I'm producing, or am I producing more than I'm consuming? And really a lot of that's how we're spending the day. And we'll find out in the quote unquote tomorrow, in the present, how we did, if that makes sense. And that kind of is the way I'm looking at like delayed gratification. And I see that working a lot. It's like playing guitars, like, you spend a lot of time practicing before anybody actually ever hears it. But the thing of it is like the more that you focus on like playing for a crowd or playing for an audience or playing for others, it's like you want it to sound good for them. You want to give them an experience. and then again, a lot of the resistance just starts to like melt away, and then it becomes more about, how can I be of service in this area? How can I bring the most value to this person? What does that even mean? I feel like it's like, how can I bring the most heaven to this person in the situation right here, right now? And whether people recognize that, and feel lifted up in their consciousness, and that's kind of like the indicator of whether it worked or not. It's like, how does that help the collective? How does that help how does it help you who's listening now? Is it really where my mind is as far as like, what to do next? It's like, well, let's elevate ourselves to experience more and more states of heaven, see more and more of that manifesting in the here and now, because ultimately Jesus already has the victory. So it's like, now faith is, and so the more we can really put that into practice, the more that we see that. And so I just want to get on and share that kind of an insight, a way of looking at it. Not to say that's the only way to do it, or that's like that's it. And I feel like there's many ways to kind of do these things, and ultimately you can just surrender and not have to think about anything. It's like you don't have to do anything really, but sometimes it feels good to, when faced with stuff, especially if you like I get, where it's like, oh, I'm experiencing the opposite in the present moment. How am I supposed to reconcile that? Well, by realizing it's your past confronting you in the present, that the delay will be in how you handle it in your consciousness and in your beliefs and in your assumptions in the here and now. Well, then it's like, it makes the journey and the destination much funner. The more that you put it into practice, less resistance, less drama. Oh shit, something popped off that triggered me. Now I'm supposed to lose my peace about it. That's I feel like part of the illusion is to get triggered by everything. It's definitely a drain of energy. But with that being said, I think I'm about. So I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. Appreciate your spiritual support and your physical support. Thank you for that. Link in the description. Put it into good use. And with that being said, thanks again, and God bless.